Hello and welcome to the next installment of the video series initiated by the policymatrix. In this series, we interview public policy experts to understand the nuances of their journey in the immense and sometimes daunting field of public policy. This initiative aims to bridge the gap between policy experts and policy enthusiasts. My name is Tanya Agarwal and I am a final year's master's student at Ashoka University. Today, I am having a conversation with Mr. Abhijit Mukhopadhyay. Mr. Mukhopadhyay is an alumnus of Jawaharlal Nehru University and Calcutta University. He has been an economic researcher for more than 18 years, and in this period, he has also taught various economics and business courses in leading business schools. He is currently a senior fellow at Observer Research Foundation, a leading think tank in India. Sir, we are so glad to have you with us today. I have a few questions for you that would help the viewers have a nuanced understanding of your journey in the realm of public policy. Sir, you have worked at IILM as a professor for around 7 years. What piqued your interest that you moved from academics to your current role?
Thank you, for thinking about me and getting me into this. I can't. Yes, I am working in public policy now. Yes, now it is almost more than 7 years. So even before that, I was in research. Before going to IILM, actually I was in research. I did research for almost 3 years. In fact, more than 3 years. If I include that time, it was a kind of a .com company. It actually became a .com company after I left. But I worked in another place called which actually became myiris.com. So, so myiris.com probably at least some people will be here. Some people must have heard about, but definitely the earlier avatar, Iris, investment research and information services. I don't think many will be knowing about that company, but it was a small company. But anyway, coming back to the entire, basically what possibly, if I understood you correctly, then you are asking that why did you leave teaching and then got into the entire research and public policy thing.
Yeah.
Part of it is accidental. Let me be frank about it. And another major factor was that in teaching, whenever you are into the third or fourth year, and if you are teaching the same courses again and again, then you start losing, the teacher starts losing interest a little bit.
Yeah.
Though I tried my best to, not to do that. And then I kept on updating. And not only that, I volunteered. I was I was among the few volunteers. Usually teachers are very comfortable in doing whatever they are doing right now, because they just make notes, and then maybe the people will keep on updating and then start teaching the students. But what I did, actually I ventured into all kinds of uncomfortable zones also. Then I was, as I was saying, that I was among the very few volunteers in IILM who started who always were enthusiastic about new courses.
Okay.
And in fact, in management schools, you must be knowing also, because mostly they teach within the core courses. They basically teach a diluted, watered down version of microeconomics and macroeconomics. So those two, they keep on calling them with different kind of names. And by the time I was in my second and third year, I also started learning the tricks. Putting in a lot of case studies, but case studies are a good method. I don't have any, any regret about you doing all this, because those were a kind of a different kind of experience. But overall, if you see, so then I started taking various kind of course. I took a course on entrepreneurship for consecutive 2 years. Then, which and all these courses actually I developed. I myself developed all those courses. Of course, with the help of some other existing courses in some other bigger and better top league, business schools and something like that. But there was a course called State and Society, which actually also I designed. There were some other courses, like there were some interesting courses in during my tenure in ILM were introduced, and then you know, they somehow overhauled they used to overhaul the syllabus too often. I believe it is too often. But anyway, it is not about ILM. But the point is that my own point is that any syllabus, before anybody wants to decide to update it, should be given at least 3 years. That is what my feeling. Because as a teacher, what I felt, the first time when you start teaching something, then you are also learning. Along with the student, the teacher is also learning.
Yeah.
Second time, you get a feel of the entire thing. Third time, you just actually teach like a professional, you teach like a pro, and then you do a lot of nuances. So 3 years at least, should be given to any kind of syllabus to be framed. But anyway, that doesn't matter, because the policy making are always with the sort of owners and other people. But anyway, let me not go there. But coming back to the original question which you were saying, but even after that, it actually, this is my, I can only speak for myself. I somehow lost the entire zeal or that entire kick, which actually a teacher, a good teacher always gets a kick. When you see, and you can instantly see it. When if you're a good teacher, or good or bad, whatever teacher, the point is that if you have taken a good lecture, then you can immediately see it on the faces of your students, those who are serious. Because of course, in all classrooms there will be some percentage who will not be that much interested, or and so on. But then I am not talking about them, but generally speaking, that was one of the one of the incentive, you can say, to teach. But unfortunately, I don't want to sound because everybody was a student. Then so I don't want to say anything bad about my students also. But the fact of the matter was that the institute in which I was teaching was a middle rung. It was not among the top level. It was a middle rung, and then somehow the student quality started going down. So that is the fact of the matter. So, and then as a teacher, if the students are not pushing you to the limits, it may feel very comfortable for some time, but after a point of time, then you also feel very bored. Intellectually, you also feel very bored, and on the contrary, if students are pushing you to the limits, then you may get pressurized also, mentally and physically. But at the end of the day, when you finish a course or you finish a lecture, you feel immense satisfaction. No, unless and until somebody has taught at some point of time, he or she will not be able to understand that kind of feeling. It is so in a way, that's about it. So then somewhere I thought that let me go back to what I started doing probably even 7 years back, which was research. So research, after starting research, it was a bit coincidental, as I was trying to say, that the places where I have been all were public policy research. And then there is nothing wrong about that. Because, always there is a running joke which actually says that those who are good for nothing cannot do anything in the theoretical research, or not enough intelligent to do any kind of very strong academic research, they only get into this public policy research. But
Yeah.
there might be some grains of truth in that. I'm not denying that. But then the point is that is not the entire truth, because
Yeah.
public policy is something. Public policy also has got its own kind of kick,
Hmm.
because the kick will be the most if you know that you are in a place and your works are being seen and you are making some impact. Kick is the most. There is no doubt about it. But then, on the contrary, a lot of people may point out that not each and every research which have been done in the area of public policy are getting translated into any kind of actual policy implementation. That is true. That is
Yeah.
true. I am not. But then it's a journey. So when I started,
Hmm.
it was the place where I started. It was more of a critique of the mainstream, and that essence is still there. But then the point is that another thing which I learned in the last 6-7 years particularly is that in public policy you have to provide solutions, and that part is very fulfilling. At one level one can always say that who sees your research, and it will be lying somewhere in the shelves of if printed, if shelves
Hmm.
of your sponsors, or some other place, nobody will see it or something. That is one way of looking at it, but I am an optimistic kind of a person, so
Hmm.
I believe, as I said, that it's a
Hmm.
journey, that you also have to make yourself somebody important whose views actually matter. So I
Yeah.
am in that journey, and I
Yeah.
cannot say that I have achieved a lot, but then at least I have traversed a little bit of path
Yeah.
in that journey. So at least some people are reading my articles in Observer Research Foundation,
I'm
and
sure
then they
I'm
are
definitely reading your articles.
finding it interesting. So that is another kind of a
Yeah.
kick, as I was saying. So so that is how things actually panned out. So in a way. So then, personally, if you ask me, then I also believe that if your research is some kind of an engagement with the current
Yeah.
dynamics of policy making,
Hmm.
doesn't matter whether if it's a kind of a what do you call it, that in that Harry Potter language you call it that that magical cauldron. So
Yeah.
a lot of things are getting put into that cauldron. So if you can put even a little bit into that cauldron, you feel
Yeah.
satisfied that in the current situation. For example, what I am trying to say, that the current pandemic, lockdown, and then
Hmm.
lifting of lockdown, all this, after all this sequencing, now the major question is that what will happen to the economy. So I am also
Yeah.
putting a little bit into that cauldron.
Yeah.
So that way it's very exciting also, at least for at an individual level, it's very exciting. That's about it.
Yeah. So, sir, at ORF, what does your typical working day look like?
What if is what if touch wood, I don't know, but the point is that
Hmm.
till now the what if is one of the best working environments
Yeah.
which I have got in my entire career. Arguably the best, probably, till now. So nobody forces you to do anything. You don't have a very 9 to 5 kind of a schedule or something
Hmm.
like that. Doesn't matter. If you come at 12 o'clock, the point is that you have to deliver. Ultimately, you have to write down, and you have to keep on engaging with the, in my case,
Hmm.
mainly economic policy making.
Yeah.
But maybe, yes, I also did something, and in future also I'll be doing something different from economic policy making. But right now also I am doing a paper which is exactly not economic policy making, but that's okay. But mainly my task is to engage myself onto the economic policy making aspect of the country. So if that is true, then I think it is going to be almost 2 years now in ORF. It is
Yeah.
one of the best first 2 years that I have got in my entire career. So that way, Observer Research Foundation gives a lot of space and a lot of, and it helps because it's a double-edged sword. I know,
Yeah.
because one can always utilize it. One can always get complacent and then don't do anything, and then at the end of the year you don't produce much output. But then it is detrimental to the person itself, because at the end of the year you'll be judged. Nobody will nobody will tell you much during the year, but after the year, if you are not doing anything, possibly what I am trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Then you'll be on the scanner, and then anything can happen.
Hmm.
But then this freedom, as I said, is a double-edged sword. But I am liking that freedom because I can work at any point of time whenever I
Yeah.
like, except for all official meetings and other kind of seminars and other. Those, of course, you have to be there on time. And then, like, after 7 years of teaching, even during the month of December, I used to take lectures at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I used to be the the only one arriving there at 8:30. Students used to come till 9, and sometimes even till 9:30 when the class is almost finished. So after that, after all those experiences, but this is absolutely till now
Yeah.
so far so good, and then it's a wonderful experience till now. I hope that I'll be able to be hanging on here for a longer time, as much as I can, and then
Yeah.
and also produce meaningful research and write-ups and papers and
Hmm.
whatever. So that's how it
So,
is.
what do you find most challenging about your work?
Challenging part is twofold. Actually,
Okay.
I would say that there are, broadly speaking,
Hmm.
broadly there are two things which one needs to concentrate on. One thing is that you have to go deeper into the problem and say something which is not generally said. That one has to always try to find. I am not saying that I am successful in and each one of my write-ups and on my
Yeah.
in my papers, that I have done something very new or very unique. No, I am not saying unique,
Hmm.
but one has to, because the point I'm trying to make is that in any particular issue, if somebody cannot find something extra in my paper,
Yeah.
then of course they will not read it, because
Hmm.
I will not do it. I will not do
Yeah.
it with any other papers. If whatever I can read in newspaper articles,
Hmm.
in the op-eds, and then some of uh, the better and the serious portals, and in some of the journals also. And if everything is there, and then I get maybe an 11th or 12th paper on the same thing, and
Hmm.
which immediately I realize that it's nothing but a collation of all kinds
So,
of information there,
yeah.
then I lose, because you need to find a story, because you need to build up a story. Maybe a lot of people will object to to the word story, but the point is that ultimately you need to have a story. You have to tell a story. That is the first part, and that story has to be interesting, because if it's an everyday story which anybody can tell, then nobody will listen to it. You
Yeah.
have to make it a slightly different story. Yes, it is something that people will start noticing. So that is one. When you pick up an issue and you try to figure out something from that issue, so then you have to somehow go deeper and find some of those angles which are not very widely covered. That is the first part. Second part is that then you have to engage yourself with that issue. That is a bit difficult part, because many people, if you ask in the policy circle, many people will say that, we have to write some suggestions, we have to write some policy recommendations, and then they, that also can be done very what I would say, very in a very bureaucratic or a very clerical clerical way. But once again, linked to the first point, what I am trying to say is that in the second point also, when actually if your recommendations are not very well rooted, very well ingrained into your main paper, main text of your paper, then it does not make any sense. Then if I start, let's say, I am doing something on, let's say, NPA, non-performing assets of the banking system. And I want to put in some, let's say, 4, 5, 10, whatever, policy suggestions, so that, things may become better. Once again, if I just copy paste the things and just refresh them, then it does not make any sense, because then whatever I am saying in the paper itself, it should follow there also. So you have to make that linkage, A, and then a deeper, as I was telling in the first part also, a deeper engagement with the issue will enable your mind also to find out some innovative solutions, which will make your solutions or the suggestions also pretty unique. So I always try to do that, somewhere. Sometimes it's okay, because sometimes there are some obvious, some generalized suggestions which need to be made, and then they're made also. There is nothing wrong in that. But if I am giving 10 suggestions, if all 10 are generalized, then the paper loses a lot of shape. So I don't mind, out of 10, if 2, 3, even 4 are very generalized, or many people have already said, but still those are very much required, I don't mind putting them. But I should have at least
New
2 to
research,
4
new.
suggestions which are pretty original, which actually came from the paper itself, which flowed from the paper itself, and also makes the paper unique in a certain way. That is what that is how I approach things, broadly speaking. Whenever I start writing, whenever I start thinking about something, that is the first thing. So yeah, those are the two things that I look into. And till now it has worked well. So I hope to improve. Of course, if somebody loses the drive to improve, then that person is gone. So any sphere of life. So that is why I humbly admit that I'm forget about being perfect. I am in the long journey towards perfection, and I'm still quite away from it. So, but then these two things one should keep in mind and keep on improving on these two. So that's what I was trying to say.
So, at the last, what would you recommend for college students who wish to work in the field of public policy or want to work in a think tank like ORF?
Absolutely, why not? Because I think so. Because public policy has its own kind of charm and kicks also, and then definitely I think not only ORF, and it's a very new and what they call so-called, a very nascent kind of an area in India, not outside, because
Yeah.
you have you have entire universities based on public policy in USA. At least a couple of them I have just now. I am having in my mind. That, for example, this what is this place? Carnegie Mellon University is
Okay.
known for public policy only. So it is and absolutely, before talking to you, I was just looking around, generally speaking, for 5-10 minutes. I
Okay.
found public policy 101 course from Berkeley, which is very interesting also. So of course, but then in our country, public policy is yet to come up to that level. But it's not very, it's not that surprising also, because what I am trying to say is that uh, in the development path, in the economic development path, India is still not the level, let's say, where the USA or the UK or a lot of other
Right.
Western European countries are. So obviously, you see the engagement. So of course, as I was saying, that the cauldron is bigger. In that, once again, in Harry Potter language, that
Yeah.
here in India the cauldron is smaller, much
Okay.
smaller than the that Harry Potter cauldron in America will be very, very big. We will
Yeah.
have numerous think tanks. There will be fierce public policy debates. We don't have that because not yet. We used to have that. We used to have that. I thought that probably even 7, 8 years back, I thought that probably it will grow bigger, but for different reasons. But I am not getting there. But
Yeah.
anyhow, that thing has stagnated quite a bit in the last 4, 5 years. So mainly because that nobody feels very enthusiastic about making any kind of public policy statement, or any kind of engagement with public policy. There are so many political reasons, social reasons, and then a lot of things actually happened in the last 5, 6 years that you also know very well. So that way, that this process probably got stalled, but we were on that as a country. We were there. We were on that road, towards that. But what I am trying to say is that if you look at the public policy debates and
Yeah.
the kind of public policy discourses in the popular domain. I am not even saying that you do a very esoteric kind of an academic study sitting in one of those rooms in a university or something like that. I am not saying that. It's pretty vibrant. Even today, even under Trump, even if you see in America, even in the media and the, at media level and at think tank level, at all kinds of advocacy institutes level, policy making is very, very vibrant. We are not bad. I am not saying that we are very bad, but we are doing good. But what I am trying to say is that this is one new area in India which a lot of students can explore. And then who knows, because if somebody is very passionate about policy making, and then policy making is not I particularly work in economic policy making,
Yeah.
sometimes delves into health policy, sometimes delves into some kind of social welfare, and some related areas. But there are other policy making as well, of which I am no expert. But then there are defense policy. What
Yeah.
if does a lot of that? What if is known for that only? What if is not actually known for that economics or economic policy making primarily? I am not saying it's bad, and probably that is my job. That is part of my job also, to make what if that much significant in
Yeah.
economic policy making as well. But there is foreign policy is there, defense is there. There are area studies in which you have lots and lots of diplomatic, strategic, defense, all kinds of angles are involved there. So there is a hell lot of because there are a lot of good works what if actually does about that nuclear policy making. And then there are so many areas, because
Yeah.
one can look into. So why not? Because one can always make a name. If somebody, I always believe that somebody should do something which somebody feels very passionate about. And then if somebody feels very passionate about, let's say, what I am saying, that defense equipment production, why not?
Yeah.
Then that person can become a very big shot in all kinds of policy making and then policy papers around the world.
Yeah.
It can be, that person can start with ORF, or for that matter, other institutes are there also, because there is ITSA, there is, you know, other think tanks are also there, of course.
Yeah.
There are a lot of economic think tanks I can think about. I don't know the name,
Hmm.
but anyway, you also know pretty well. But essentially, those are think tanks. Because a lot of earlier, 10 years, 15 years back, when I was much younger, the, you know, the fad word used to be research institute. Now the fad word has transferred to think tanks. So
Yeah.
a lot of places, they start identifying themselves as think tank. Whether it is good or bad, I don't know. But
Okay.
you know, the basics remains the same. What I feel is that if somebody wants to make a career there, why not? Absolutely. You know, there are people, I know people in my seniors and other people who have never gone into any kind of university or any kind of that way, any kind of academic job or
Okay.
something like that. They spent almost their entire life
Hmm.
in this kind of research institute, call it
Yeah.
research institute, call it think tanks. They
Thanks. Yeah.
spend their lives there. And then, of course, you know, think tank also, you know, it's you know, once you, if you like it, then you will find a lot of kicks around, because, you know, there
Yeah.
will be, it's not just like, you know, very boringly keep on writing papers and then, you know,
Hmm.
just with glum faces, you know, sitting
Yeah.
inside a seminar. It's not
Hmm.
only that, because
Yeah.
you do a lot of other things also. You do some kind of organizing, a talk, you do, you know, you do disseminating your paper or your report
Hmm.
with relevant people, maybe in the government, or sometimes even, you know, non-governmental agencies. You interact with them. So not only that, and then you start engaging with your potential audience, and you start engaging with your potential network in different kind of, you build that network. So who knows, you know, there are different kind of people in all kinds of organizations. So, you
Hmm.
know, some people, they're very good at building up network. So they can also contribute. You know, they feel very passionate about something, and in one area, let's say, you know, defense equipment manufacturer, or
Hmm.
let's say defense.
Yeah.
Why I keep on saying only defense equipment manufacturing. Let's say defense. You know, some area of defense.
Hmm.
Somebody is into the naval studies or something like that, and builds up a you know, network of herself, and then start doing something on the, you know, doing various kind of activities. So there are various ways of engagement in which one can find interest and sustain it also.
Hmm.
Sustaining is a very big part, you know, in your life. Later you will understand after 10-15 years that sustaining interest is possibly the biggest challenge we
Yeah.
face, whatever we do. You know, starting from studying in a course, and which course to study, that is
Yeah.
also there.
Yeah.
You know, so it starts from there, and then it never
Hmm.
ends. It will go
Yeah.
on as long as you keep on engaging yourself with some kind of a work, mentally and physically. So that's about it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. On that note, I would like to end this interview. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invite. It was a pleasure listening to you. And I'm sure this will help a lot of
Yeah,
students
I'm very happy.
gain better insight into policy making.